want to talk about why people use Lineage, right? You were just kind of using it to see what does it do. There are actually two types of Lineage, and I think that's pretty important. You know, when I started at Collibra a couple of years ago, I didn't realize there were like different types of Lineage, and like even in Collibra, we had like our own terms for what the kind of lineage that we did. And we didn't really know like what are the industry standards. So, you know, when you said like it's kind of early, like it is kind of early in the open lineage space, like in the lineage space. And a lot of people don't know they need it. Like people will buy our product and they'll be like, okay, and now we have Lineage, and now what do we do with it? And I'm like, why did you spend all that time configuring it and setting it up and like money buying it if you didn't know what you wanted to do with it? Like, so the first one, it's not the first, but one type of lineage is called design lineage. And that is the lineage that you design. For example, you write a stored procedure and maybe there's 3 different cases. And in case 1, the data goes from here, and in case 2, it goes somewhere else. In case 3, it does something else, right? That's how you design it. Now, if you create a stored procedure, but nobody ever runs it, is it lineage that you care about? Chances are, see, you're shaking your head, and that's what I thought too. The real answer is it depends. So if you're a bank and you have special things that run only on daylight saving time days or leap years, then absolutely, when you show your auditor, right, or if you're trying to figure out like who uses this table, you're going to want to know that. So that's design lineage. It's what's designed. A view is design lineage, right? But you don't know if anyone's using the view. You know, a definition of ETL, like in your Azure Data Factory, you defined it to go, whether or not it ever ran, right? So operational lineage, as you might know or guess, is what actually happened. An open lineage is operational lineage by design, not to use the word design, but it also speaks to, it also has a static lineage, which could be design lineage, if you wanted to put it in there. So operational lineage is what actually happened. So if you have that stored procedure and somebody runs it, you're going to get the one path it took. If it took the second path, that's what you're going to see in lineage. You're not going to see the first path because it didn't go on that first path, right? So that's another thing that people are like, oh, I wrote all these paths. I need to see where it might go. I need to show that I am, you know, wherever the data goes, it's in this secured area because it's private data. So I'm glad that you guys that did the same thing I did, which is like, of course, why would you ever care about anything if you never ran it, right? And then I got schooled. So there are several kind of generic use cases for a lineage. One is what is happening, like you just had. And if you could see my slide, you'd be so proud of me because I started numbering my list at 0. I have 6 different things that go 0 to 5, but you can see in the recording, it's fine. So it's like, what is actually happening here? Is what I'm developing what I want to happen, right? So you can see maybe even like before you run, you know, a thing, like, is it actually happening? Another big reason is compliance, right? Which I, you know, mentioned a couple cases. Is it going where I need it to go? We're having an audit. Is secret data still secret? Do people not have access to see what they shouldn't see? Traceability, okay? Where did this data come from? What happened to it? Can I trust my data? You know, when I go to a party, and I'm fun at parties, and they say, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I do lineage. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, oh, no, okay, let me explain. It's part of data governance, right? Which only brings up more questions for them. And for me, data governance is pretty much, can you trust your data? And how can you trust your data? And all the facets in which you can trust your data, right? And there's a law under that umbrella. But that's kind of what it is. And so traceability is kind of where did the data come from? For example, if you have salary data, did it come from HR or did it come from a survey? And which one are you going to trust more, right? And I mean, it depends, right? Are you going to trust HR data if you're the IRS? Absolutely, right? But maybe if you're Glassdoor, right, you want a full swath of what's going on. And so you want a survey because it's going to come from more than one company. This is also called data provenance, which is a very fancy word that took me a long time to remember what data provenance was. And it's actually really funny because at one point I was telling somebody, you know, there's like 5 or 6 different uses for lineage. And they were like, Sheeri, there are only 2 uses for lineage, upstream and downstream. And data provenance is upstream. I don't know what compliance is. I guess it's both. But impact analysis is downstream. Okay. I have had to sit and talk to people and say, we want to get rid of this table. Who's using it? And so they made it like turn on logs for a week and go through all the logs, see what programs we're using again, call up those departments, do this and do that. And of course, we ended up, dropping the table after like, literal months and, hours and hours of meetings over the course of calendar months, and, dropped the table and still found some use that, didn't happen there. If you want to get on the Zoom, I'm sharing to the Zoom. What will happen if I change the schema? So now you don't always drop a column or a table, but what if you start your business, it's going well, in the US, it's going well, you want to branch out into Europe. Now you need to take currency in euros, right? Or you need to go to Japan and you're taking currency in yen. Well, now every time you have an amount field, you need to add a currency field. So now you need to know all of your reports and all of your data warehouse stuff, all of your analysis that's using amount, because now you have to factor that in. That's another thing that impact analysis can be used for. And then another use case is validating a migration. You're moving from one tool to another. You want to make sure all the pipelines you had in one tool are in the other one, right? So if you have a lineage visualization, you could literally see, yes, this has 4 pipelines, this has 4 pipelines. When it gets more complicated, you could like download a spreadsheet and compare. And another, the last use case that I have heard of that came up with was for quicker onboarding. So you can show kind of the data landscape, and it's a way to see that. I thought that was very clever when one organization was like, well, we show it to people. I'm like, wow, that's really clever. And particularly in our product, not to be like product, but like in our product, you can go back and see, oh, who owns that data? So like, oh, this report, there's a problem with it. Who do I call? You can do that. So they were particularly using our software, not just for the lineage itself, but for the like, well, who do you talk to? And I like Lineage because I don't like to talk to people if I don't have to. If I can self-serve information, that is the best. So that's there. And we do have things like discovery and automated lineage and all that kind of stuff. So that is that's useful. Let's see.